Today's chat is brought to you by Loot Crate. Save 10% on any new subscription at www.trylootcrate.com/FFC. Enter the promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 112 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on December 15th, 2017, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Big shout out to our live chat here. Thank you so much for joining us for an evening back. Well, I guess we're not in the tower this evening because we kind of wanted to be in the area of the topic, and we actually have that chance with the lighthouse now being open to everyone. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who has been said has the voice of the flower and apparently is trying to connect via AOL with us tonight, Justin. How's the tech working for you over there?
My tech works hard for the money. So hard for the money. No, it's all doing its thing. You know. Sometimes there's a lot of different frequencies in my house, so you gotta specify
frequency. Okay.
Yes. Like, use it in a sentence. I annoy Beard with increasing frequency.
Yes.
Well done.
Also, we have our favorite Gunter, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, hope you're doing well. You looking forward to tonight's chat?
I am. I'm also a little nervous about tonight's chat, to be honest.
I'll be nice.
Yeah.
Because, if you haven't seen the map that has been made previously on this topic,
I slimmed it down a lot. A lot.
I will say that you actually withheld quite a bit of information. I could actually load the map this time.
Yes, it does not break MindMeister to load it up this time around. But we also have with us the grizzly bearded lore master himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing tonight?
I'm really tired.
Understandable.
That's all I got.
I mean, it's really been a long week for. I mean, there's this awesome chat. There was Star Wars.
It's been a week.
There's Star Wars.
I'm kind of like losing my days here. It's been a week.
Star Wars.
What Star Wars? Star Wars came out.
Man, I had to fight the urge because I took today off because we went and watched it last night at like 10. So I got back home about probably 1 or 2 because we went with a big group. I was fighting all day. I was like, I should not go watch it again. But I don't have it. You don't have a child. I didn't. I actually sat down and played. What did I play? Oakenfree? Sat down for one sitting.
Oxenfree?
Oxenfree, that's it. God, man.
Okay.
I was about to say, you're just making words up.
I'm just making words up, yeah. I've never done that. But yeah, no, I played Oxenfree, and I have to say, that was a really fun little game. So.
Ollie Oxenfree?
No, it's... I can't remember.
It's like hide and seek.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is Oxenfree, but yeah, no, it's an indie game, I think, right?
Yeah, it's like hide and seek if aliens were involved in a way.
Oh yeah, temporal. Yeah, speaking of time travel, though, it kind of does involve that actually. Now that I think about that, it is actually related to tonight's topic. Well, I know we're looking forward to diving into the discussion, and I know obviously the team is as well. So let's run through our standard intro notes. Wow, that's Justin has not only been back for like half an episode, and he's rubbing off on me on the wrong way.
That's a good drop.
Let's
running
through our standard intro notes and to get right.
Let me
to
off,
it.
Johnny.
Our topic for this week's chat is going to be a look at Osiris. Before we jump into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes to run through. In our last chat, we discussed the power of hope. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out the new FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes to let us know how we're doing, as well as helping us continue to grow. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found on our show notes or on our website. Podcasts focused on Destiny include Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian 1, a Destiny group dedicated to Guardians helping Guardians and discussing current Destiny news and happenings, Ghosts and Echoes, a collection of the Destiny audio grimoire from Destiny 1, and the network's newest edition, The Guardian Life, which is a podcast from the casual Guardian's perspective that highlights all Guardians, large and small. We also do have a non-Destiny focused podcast, The Enthusiast Life, which is a podcast discussing a wide range of fun topics from within the entertainment world. Our next chat is going to be a discussion on the dangers of AI within Destiny. Be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend to let us know what topic you want to discuss after that. Links to that poll can be found either on Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. I've asked Green to put together a high-level summary of tonight's topic, and this is what she had to say.
What drives a warlock to madness? Well, what would you do if you were able to look inside the head of an enemy and see every single plot meant to destroy you played out? Would you spend every waking moment trying to figure out how to prevent these things from happening? Because if so, you and Osiris are not so different. The curse of Osiris is not directly told to you. There is no tome describing what his curse is. It's more subtle than that. Knowing the future can be a great temptation for an egotistical warlock. This curiosity eventually led to his self-entrapment. This is the truth that drives a warlock to madness. This is the knowledge that simply knowing would drive us all to madness.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about Osiris, however, let's look at this week's Lost Lore. All right, so I know the discussion is still going on what this week's Lost Lore is going to be. Because there's so many random tangents connected with this particular item. What did you guys want to, what was the kind of...
Well, what were our choices? What did we discuss?
I think the final choices were either some of his theories or his involvement with Toland or his interest in the Hive.
Let's do Toland, because that's always a fun connection.
Oh, Damo's so much a fan of you.
So mad at me? Is that what you said?
So much a fan of you.
Which part?
Toland's an okay guy.
Tolad is going to be the... So basically it was really kind of confirmed with Destiny 2, or I guess reiterated with more emphasis, that the characters that we know from the history, these figures of renown like Wei Ning, Ariana, Toland, Osiris, all of these figures actually did interact with each other on a pretty regular basis. They weren't these individual loners who didn't really talk to each other or anything like that. They were actually pretty heavily involved with the daily going on in the tower and in the last city and stuff like that. So as far as Osiris and Toland are concerned, well, I'm gonna let one of you guys take first dibs at this one?
I would say it'd be very hard to say that Osiris did not have any connection with Toland, considering Osiris was the first Warlock Vanguard mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That's also begging the question of when Toland became a Warlock at that point, though.
That's true. That's true.
Still had at least some connection to him, because you tend to know all of your Warlocks when you're the mentor, hopefully. But which connection were you talking about specifically?
For me personally,
I was going to say, I think it's just in general.
Yeah, it's more of like a general idea. The reason I kind of presented it as like a lost lore in our little private chat there. The idea basically springs from, Toland is the first. Toland's first person that he basically calls out to when he ends up reaching the Hive nether space, which I will call it, is basically out to Osiris.
Right.
He goes, Osiris, I call. And that has always kind of struck me as a little bit on the weird side. Versus then we get a little bit more confirmation in, I think it's one of the newer weapons, actually one of the newer Syrian weapons. Osiris actually counters and talks about Toland in a way, saying that he has a very, I guess he has what's the best way to kind of put it? He respects Osiris, he respects Toland quite a bit with the findings that he has, and that's where they kind of seem to meet on this mutual level. But even then, Osiris and Toland had both done a lot of work into the Hive. They both had done a lot of research into it seems. And until at some point Osiris seemed more interested, or garnered more interest in splitting away from what was going on with the Hive to say, no, the Vex are really the most important thing now at this point. And now Toland is in this space where he's calling out, going, hey, guess what? I made it. Vex ain't touching me here. At least, as far as I know.
As far as he knows.
Yeah. And then he reads the Books of Sorrow and he finds out that Crota ended up,
right.
poking at him.
I wonder, what Toland's reaction to that segment of the Book of Sorrows. This jerk face is the one who brought in the Vex.
Mm-hmm. It's like, hold on a second
Crota.
here.
Poor Crota.
Poor Crota.
Not only is he hated by us, he's hated by everyone.
By
His own
everybody
dad
ever.
His own dad picked him up and threw him through a Vex gate.
Well,
I still imagine that Oryx grabbed Crota by the right
ankles.
leg and the right arm and then threw him sideways through this gate and just said, "Here you go."
That is one of my favorite images.
Oh no. I've battled just with the thought of what exactly Oryx would have done when he actually lifted Crota and threw him through that portal. And then how did the sword go through too? Was Crota hanging on to it that whole time, or
did it come afterwards? Just get chucked after him.
He lands and the sword comes tumbling through after him,
like a bad boyfriend getting thrown out of the apartment. Yeah, that's not right.
I've got zero experience with that. You're going to have to just explain that one to me.
I mean, you might just have to think about it.
Nah.
No, I imagine that it's something like that same image I'd kind of mentioned. Oryx grabs him by both right appendages and throws him through the portal, and then he kind of looks at the sword and says, "Yeah, okay, you can have this too."
I was thinking more like Jewish mama type thing.
Oh, that too. Hey, don't forget your sword.
Well, that was a nice and short extra lore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to actually get into tonight's thing, or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Can't tell Blue's excited, guys.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. This is a good one. So the entire thing for tonight really is, kind of not so much a detailed like update, but more so a conversation on kind of the character of Osiris himself. And so which will definitely, we definitely are going to be pulling in the clarifications that the Curse of Osiris DLC has given us about his character and about the history and, the involvement of, for example, the banishment from the tower and everything like that. That was clarified with this DLC. But it's not going to be so focused on just like, here's the update and this is what this means. It's more of like almost a character analysis of that, of this figure. And so really, I actually tossed this to the team a couple days ago. But I kind of view Osiris, like even with the information, actually, especially with the information that we've been given with this DLC, I actually view Osiris not as like this negative. He is definitely got a degree of narcissistic tendencies. But I think it's also simply because he just it's confident, which it's confidence, which definitely, as anyone knows, borders on arrogance. But what I kind of wrote together, I wrote this a little summary, and I know Green and Beard will know which one I'm talking about here. But I said, a figure who had no time for coddling people, Osiris was far more concerned with the threat of enemies of humanity. While many see abrasive narcissism, some perceive genius with no patience for the daily frustrations of a mundane or civilian life. In a way, this actually makes sense. To the mind of one who had experienced the dark desires of the Vex and their ultimate goal of convergence, the concerns of the Fallen and the Cabal would appear petty. This, however, does not mean that those concerns were not valid. Indeed, death can be delivered in a multitude of manners. 1,000 minor cuts in the end can serve to be just as fatal as decapitation. Rather than see his fascination with the Vex as something to exile him for, though, one could, as I do, argue that the error was rather in placing him in a mentor or leadership role. His strength wasn't in training new arrivals. It was teasing apart the intricate secrets and mysteries of the Infinite Forest and deciphering the vast logic of the Vex world minds which occupied it. In fact, the placement of Osiris in the position of Vanguard Mentor, especially as the Vanguard Commander, was a massive misstep on the part of the speaker and the consensus. And it was one that created the self-fulfilling prophecy of his exile or banishment in some sense, due to his neglecting the, quote, duties of that role, end quote. Understandably, he had no desire to hold the role. He was going to neglect them from the start. So I honestly see it as a giant fumble that was created because the city and the Vanguard tried to force Osiris into a position that he didn't really have any patience for. It wasn't his strength to teach. He is a leader, but he is not a teacher. And that's kind of the thing is he is a leader. He might become a great leader, but he is by no means a mentor. He doesn't have the patience for it. He views, the basic training, but and that's where you see Ikora really shine. Ikora is a very good mentor. She's a very good teacher. I don't know if she is as good of a leader in some sense, which is why she defers to Zavala. And you kind of see that interplay between all that.
Well, she's also not in the exact same position that Osiris was either.
And that's correct. I think the thing with Osiris, I really see Osiris as a character who was created to show that it's just like anything in the real life, right? Someone can be really, really good at what they do and be absolutely horrible at teaching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're right. Some people are really good at, pick a field, and then they're terrible teachers. They can't teach it to save their lives.
Well, that's why when we had this conversation the other day, I compared him to a professor rather than an actual high school teacher. And
I really agree with that because he's that cranky old professor who is a genius in the topic, but just has no patience for the freshmen because they don't. for anything under. But as a mentor, he's expected to teach kindergarten. Like, and so it's like the level of expectation in Osiris's mind for the people who he is interacting with it's just setting everyone up for failure.
Now, that being said, he does come across as an utter narcissist who's yes, he is doing something for the good of humanity with this, but there's also a sense of utter fascination with the way that the simulation works and the way that he can interact with it and discover secrets, which is every warlock's dream.
Right. And I Justin, just real quick before I let you jump in, I think that I don't know, like having gone to higher level professors as a freshman and sophomore in college who were exactly like that personality wise, they look down on lower classmen because there's this preconceived notion that they don't have the base understanding of, oh, you skipped a couple base classes, so you won't have any idea what I'm talking about kind of attitude. Like that comparison definitely resonates with me for Osiris as like he's got like 3 postdoctorate work degrees and, he's teaching an associate's degree, or, he's expected to dumb things down that to him you can't. But Justin, I know you had something you wanted to throw in.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say, I think also the Vanguard has kind of a history of doing this exact same thing that I think worked to Osiris's detriment, which is they shoehorn these prominent figures into these roles that, aren't necessarily, the most conducive thing to their skill set. Like, and the biggest example of this I can think of is Cade.
Mm-hmm.
Cade is definitely shoehorned into a mentor's role where his personality and his temperament do not lend themselves to being a good mentor naturally. Now, we'll say this, he's grown into it, whereas Osiris seemed to more, shun the role. But I just think Osiris just fell victim to poor man management.
Well, and you see that even with Saint 14, who was the Titan mentor very briefly. It seems like he was the mentor, and then all of a sudden Zavala was there, and it's like, oh well, I mean, like, so yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, and that's kind of where like I got and then when you read the whole thing with Ikora and the banishment and the way that it was kind of stated for them, like I don't know, it just struck me as like Osiris just was he had no, and we knew this from the original Osiris card, right? He just doesn't have patience for obfuscation. He doesn't have patience for chit chat. It's just he's very direct. He's very to the point, and you kind of see that with especially some of the adventures that you have in Curse of Osiris, where it's just like he's like, no, do this. Don't ask questions. Like, this is just what it is. He doesn't have that personality that really is like, oh, let's use this as a teaching moment type thing. He's like, no, this is what's needed to be done to get this fixed. We don't have time to explain to you why you need to do this. Just do it. Whereas, Ikora and Zavala and Ikora, I don't know, like the glitch with Ikora, she just is like super needy now. Have you guys got that? Like the glitch that makes me have to run across the tower just to talk to her. It's like, oh my God, why do you want to talk to me? And like, hi, friend. I'm like, Jesus, leave me alone, lady.
I have not gotten that glitch, luckily.
Oh, it might be just a subset of the fact that she has the most like minuscule role after you finish the story.
But I mean,
Open
I
the
guess
door.
my point there is like if you read like the entire process of his banishment, and the things that Ikora said to him, it was really like, I'm not saying that he's not blameless, because he definitely did not help the situation, being his personality what it is, because he is very abrasive. He's very confrontational in and of himself. And like the entire situation could have been resolved with him just being like, okay, I'm done. I'm stepping aside and let Ikora or let someone else take his place. But he refused. It kind of felt like he was refusing to,
I would say,
acknowledge that they made a mistake.
Almost the opposite of confrontational, in the fact that he just kind of ignored the aspect on it and just went and did it regardless.
Right. I meant with
Yes.
the speaker, like with a conversation with the speaker. I see him as someone who
Yes.
exasperates the problem, because he's like in a conversation. He's not quite an a-hole, but he easily can become one if you push him.
Probably.
I mean, there's another
someone
character.
He's used to being the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there was another figure in the lore that is that reminds me of that. Thanks, Green, for ruining that,
What?
for making that connection that I now can't help but think of.
Uh-huh. Do we need to go into that?
Yeah, why
now,
don't
or
you?
should
Why
we
don't
save
you?
that
Yeah,
for later?
I'm gonna let you go into that one, because I still I can't even think about it without like giggling, because
Okay.
it's so perfect.
So, Justin, I have my own dragon theory.
Justin hasn't heard
let's
it.
hear it.
No,
No,
this
I haven't
is
heard
he
it
hasn't.
yet.
no.
No.
So, in Curse of Osiris, very first mission with him, you see him with all the different reflections, right? You deal with them, and they're talking to you as you're going into the Infinite Forest for the first time. Bear with me on this one. So,
I'm with you.
he's creating multiple reflections so he can access different simulations within the Vex network. There is another character in Destiny lore that we have seen that has kind of a similar modus operandi, or I should say similar characters that have that similar way of doing things that would make different forks of their own selves so they can go into the
I'm with
Vex and explore the simulations.
You can hear
And
the
there's-
excitement in Justin's.
Mhm. So there's, we know where a female kind of sort of went, but we don't know what happened to any of the males in that. My theory is that Osiris is possibly a guardian version of Dr. Shim.
Which makes us Dwayne.
Ish.
I feel like Dwayne most of the time. That's all right.
That's kind of what I said too. I was like, that actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were more awake, I could make an Asher comment to that I am a Dwayne comment.
We should make a GIF of Justin's
I-
character just being
I am Dwayne.
I are warlock or I are hunter.
I'm just thinking like I am legend. Instead of Will Smith looking really cool, it's just me, and it says I am Dwayne.
With the I am legend background.
Wow.
Yes.
I like that. I really do, because Shim and Osiris actually share quite a few personality traits.
Mhm.
Their impatience with, and it's not stupidity, it's ignorance. Because you got to think, anyone who speaks with Osiris, who's not a Vex submind, is ignorant, because there's no possible way you could know the things he knows. Like there's just no way. So you can imagine how frustrating that would be for for someone of his intellect to be. It's like you're talking to everyone about a picture, but you've got the whole picture and they just have pieces of the picture, and it can get frustrating. Yeah, they can't see the picture at all.
Yeah, so that's my dragon theory.
I really like that.
Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot to go off of besides just like the few similarities, but it is a fun thought game to play.
No.
It just makes me giggle.
Yes, because you want Dr. Shim's personality and Osiris' personality.
I would love that so much.
Uh-huh. Speaking of personality, should we talk about a different personality related to Osiris?
Yeah.
Miss Sagira, who I thoroughly enjoyed the banter between her and Ikora. There's moments that I wish that banter could be more with different characters.
I just like the fact that we have a ghost who curses.
Right.
Yeah, really.
I really wanted actually our ghost, like Nolan North, to talk to Sagira at some point. Like actually have more than just a few sentences of conversation.
He does in the Strike.
I have not played that yet.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like, he is, oh my god, our ghost is so salty. Like, he is not happy. He's like, oh, wow, you learned a lot while I was gone, didn't you? And he was like, dude, calm down.
The thing that I find
Sagira doesn't help.
No, she doesn't. She's like, hey, borrowed.
Here's something I find interesting about that whole situation, though. Even though the ghost shell that was being used was our ghost was in there. We had that line where it was said that he's in there, but he doesn't remember the majority of what happened. Like, it doesn't come to him right away.
It doesn't, like, at least large parts of it, apparently, he doesn't remember at all. And I think what I remember specifically is, I think there was a comment about him being, quote, asleep.
Which is
I honestly took it as, like, a dissociative identity disorder for a ghost. Like, it's like the ghost had a multiple personality, and a personality asserted itself over the primary. I mean, it's literally DID with a psychotic break. And so it was very interesting. And the other thing that I found really interesting with that the entire DLC when we have Sagira with us is that, and I'm sure everyone noticed, the fact that our ghost shell was presented as being I guess that's a better word, was augmented in a way. It wasn't completely, but it was almost like caught in a transmat loop with the wings, the little shards. Chat. Ghost became failsafe.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
But I think the large reason why Ghost couldn't remember it is because whereas like failsafe, you have the two personalities that comprise the sums of they're two parts of a whole. With Ghost and Sagira, those are two completely unique personalities, and that's why when one was in control, the other doesn't remember, basically.
Right.
Sorry, Justin.
Also, Sagira in Egyptian means little one. Little one, little light. I mean, it's not that far.
Oh, talk about a line in the DLC.
That has
gotten everybody up in arms.
Yeah, to me that was like a take that.
Well, when you put it that way.
I just like the laugh, the laugh that he has.
Take that, lore nerds.
Oh, I did, and I ran with it.
Okay, so can we explain why? Because right now we're making references to this comment. Well, as everybody in the community knows.
Basically, what you would go for, Green?
No, you do it. I was just trying to figure out the best way to present it.
Basically, it's a kind of a very big, subtle nod to the Stranger, who was a character from Destiny 1, who, depending on how invested you were in the story, so for us, it was kind of a big deal. For the majority of just casual players, it was kind of like, oh, it's the person that kind of showed up for 30 seconds. But within the grimoire itself, the Stranger is very prevalent and very kind of important. There's also, depending on how far down this rabbit hole you want to go, there's a lot of supposed original story issues with Osiris and the Stranger. But the Stranger at one of the first main cutscenes, or no, the first main cutscene that she's in fully, that she speaks to us, she refers to our ghost as Little Light, which then jokingly, that was another time that our Guardian spoke.
Yes, and
I forgot all about that because our Guardian got pissed at us for that.
No,
did they later take that out? Or sorry, yeah, our ghost got pissed. Did they later take that out?
Still there. I think that line's still there because
I know for a fact it's still there because I had to go record that spot yesterday. It's still there.
It is, okay.
If you think about the connection between the Stranger and Ishtar Collective and it goes back to my little theory again. So that's a fun one.
Yeah, and then also going to kind of your spin foil, Green, and then the very, very, very prevalent theory of the Stranger's identity, who is another part of the Ishtar team. There's a lot of loose threads that could be very neatly tied into a very pretty bow, if that is actually indeed intended to be a connecting line there. The challenge here is that out of game, we have seen repeated comments from Bungie, from Luke Smith, and from various other personalities within the Bungie team that the Stranger storyline has been, I think, quote, nicely wrapped up.
Lies.
Exited properly.
That was Luke, right? Wasn't that what Luke said?
Don't worry, I remember Salt very well.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it was, again, depending on how heavily invested you were in the grimoire, that comment could have been met with a or a table flip.
What about Mara cosplay? What?
Oh, God, yeah. We're not going to start on that one.
Sorry.
But yeah, so so that one little comment, which is the ending of the campaign, is Osiris refers.
Vanilla.
What's that?
And the ending of the campaign in vanilla too. Well, midway through the vanilla, doesn't she make another comment on it at the end? No,
she makes the comment to the ghost, and then our Guardian kind of talks down to him and says, he's like, it's basically like, calm down, Little Light, and don't call me that. And that was when Dinklebot was still our ghost too. He got so pissed.
Yeah, it was actually that same scene where you meet the Stranger, and
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
do we have to go here? Yeah. And there was an emblem actually in D1. It was one of my favorite emblems. That was Little Light. It was a blue
There's also
ghost.
A ship that was named.
Yes, there was a ship. So I mean, but the thing is Osiris directly refers to Sagira and says something along the lines of "Come on, Little Light," and then they walk, and that's the end of the campaign. So there was a lot of. I saw that the first time, and I was like, it's like, and time it. There's the explosion. It was one of those things like this is gonna be interesting watching reactions of.
Well, and it's not only that, it's just a matter that is the last, like the absolute last thing that Osiris leaves you with. And then you're just like, no, that can't be the last line. No, why would you do this to me? All right, we'll have to get into the Infinite Forest because there has to be some explanation for it now. That has to be it. Brother Vance, you apparently know everything. Really, you know absolute jack. But about all of this, why?
Well, okay. I'm going to defend Brother Vance a tiny bit.
Do not.
There's no defense.
As far as his personality, he is terrible. But he's obnoxious. He's more okay. I don't like him worse than I don't like Asher, and that's saying something because I really don't like Asher.
I was about to say, I think we had this conversation the other day.
We did. Brother Vance is more annoying than Asher is because Asher has some very profound thoughts and he's constantly working, whereas Brother Vance comes off as just a fanboy, which I understand. He's a cult leader, guys. That's the thing. Cult leader.
No, he's not a cult leader.
He's a fanatic.
He leads the fan club for a cult.
Right, but if we get into some of the different weapons,
I guess actually really quick, I do have to agree with Justin on that one.
There.
Because there's a difference between the disciples of Osiris and the cult of... God, I always blank on their name. The Aeon cult?
The Aeon cult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a vast difference, I think, between the two groups.
This is true, but it practically seems like a cult at this point. In some ways,
and I get that. I see the cult of Aeons as an actual cult, and the disciples are kind of like, oh, Osiris, sign this poster. You know, like it's like right. I mean, they're kind of fangirling over Osiris. That's literally what they're doing. Whereas the cult of Aeons is like a little bit more creepy.
But we do learn some things from Brother Vance and some of the lore tabs for the weapons.
Oh, yes.
We learned about...
that he's not a guardian.
Right. We also learn about the timing of certain things. There's a little bit of chronological clarification brought up.
And he's also 30, which apparently to him makes him very wise.
That makes me feel awkward because...
I read that and I was like, oh, I have so many words for you that I'm not going to be allowed to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you're one of those people.
Wow. It just got real ageist in here.
No, I'm defending, like, I'm like, this is like, I was reading that and I was like, wait, what? Like, you're younger than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you didn't know how old you were.
Oh, no, I don't know exactly. I know generally. I know decades-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to chop off a leg and count the rings?
Yes.
Wait, what? I'm
Green doesn't know about this. This is like
this rabbit hole.
This is like one of Justin's biggest frustrations with me.
Because you don't know if you're your own dad? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, he doesn't know how old he is.
Why?
I don't pay attention to age.
He doesn't know
because you don't pay attention to birthdays. Is that what it is?
No, my birthday. I don't pay attention to my birthday.
Oh,
like I've told my whenever I do financial like accounts and stuff like that, I tell them like, literally your best security question for me, if I answer in less than 30 seconds after you ask me my age, it's not me, because I have to recalculate it every single time someone asks me it.
He's literally subtracting his.
I literally have to subtract.
Year.
Yeah, I'm like I literally have to count back and be like, okay, hang on, what year is it? Okay, yeah, no, that's how old I am. Like I've had this conversation with the banks that we deal with. It's just, and they think it's hilarious, but I'm like, no, I'm not joking. It's the best security question for me. If someone answers it in less than 30 seconds, I can guarantee you it's not me.
That's really weird.
If we lived in the same town, I would completely throw you a surprise party, like on a day that was nowhere near your birthday, just to see if you'd bite.
Yes, I approve of this.
If you bought me presents and food, dude, that I'd go to every surprise birthday party you throw.
Okay, well, there will be presents.
So I'd hate to take this in a direction that's probably going to get me ridiculed on the internet, but I'm just imagining Justin as Pinkie Pie right now throwing you a surprise party. That would be ridiculous.
Friendship is magic, Brony.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay. I am disturbed.
Calm down, teamer. Calm down, teamer.
I'm disturbed that I don't understand that reference, and you two both did.
We have kids, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not joking. Like, we have kids, and yeah.
And inexplicably, my son really went through a My Little Pony phase. So, which he'd probably kill me for telling everybody
on the internet about this.
On the internet.
So for everyone who's downloading this episode, please don't refer to. Please don't comment about it. The My Little Pony face.
Yeah,
Didn't happen. Totally didn't happen.
He may or may not have an Instagram account. Do not comment about My Little Pony.
Do not, shaking head. You decide which way it's going. Do not.
It's like a choose your own adventure.
Just don't do that.
It's like a choose your own adventure.
If you leave your hand on the page, you can check it out and still go back.
Oh my
Yeah.
That's like to bring it back. That's like what Osiris has going on.
Right?
That is true.
This time traveling thing.
With the fidget cube. He's like, no, wrong way. Wrong way.
No, that's Sagira who's like wrong way. He's running headlong into danger.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Which,
actually,
by the way,
I think that's the strike.
I kinda
Actually,
feel
is she makes a comment about how we're really good at cleaning up Osiris's messes.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like Sagira should be a little bit more like inventive with the way that she screws with the Vex when they're frozen.
Oh yeah, reach for the sky, big guy.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute,
Like,
did you legitimately just come off of the set of Firefly or something? Oh, wait.
That's what I. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Isn't that a line from Firefly?
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. Yeah. Like, I could pick out, like, several lines that they actually had her say, and they all fit the bill way too well if they were not, like, direct quotes straight from the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
So actually, on the topic of Brother Vance, I had a weird question on that angle, because there are a couple things that were brought up to me that I had kind of forgotten about, because quite frankly, I didn't get too heavily into Osiris outside of like a couple of the Grimoire cards
I forgive you.
in Destiny 1, because I was
It's
like,
fine.
I have too many other mind screws to worry about,
No,
like the Books of Sorrow.
that's fair.
So
That's fair.
please, I'll be over here.
Mm-hmm.
But
That is a fair point.
yeah, especially coming into it as late as I did. But somebody had pointed out to me that in Destiny 1, if you go to the Reef, Brother Vance actually mentions a couple different things. Now, first point I should mention is, of course, that originally we had all this information that popped up from Brother Vance about Osiris. He was effectively the dude that gave us all of this info, and we basically can kind of look at a lot of it and go, did it really happen? Is a lot of this stuff like true, or is it just the fanboy in him? Is there just... And it now is calling a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, into question where we didn't have these hints before. The other thing that is seemingly retconned or changed about him is that he was apparently a warlock at one point.
Yeah.
And he no longer is. So there are a few points on Brother Vance to say, well, is this the original Brother Vance and is Vance just a title? Or is something else going on here? I would still say it is the exact same character, because Bungie hasn't really given us any indication to say it's somebody different. But just to throw those few things out there, see what your thoughts are.
I kind of took it as it's the same character, because again, he's blind. I mean, it's the same. I mean, he's got the same surface build, I guess you would call it, of Vance from the Reef. But like, yeah, I know that was one of the things that really actually did kind of irk me when I found that out. I was like, oh, like, don't, like, because I mean, there were quotes from him that specifically called out the fact that he was a guardian. Yeah. And then like I mean, he makes comments when you're in the reef about like, you know, kind of what you're saying. Like he knows these things, like the hidden. He knows like the signs of all this stuff, and it's like, I'm like, that just seems, I don't know. Like I get it. He was kind of a secondary character that I assume that they probably didn't put much thought in originally, and now are kind of circling back around, I guess. But it was a little bit of a, for me, it was a little bit of a frustration, because it was like, it wouldn't have hurt to keep him a former, like, I don't really understand why it's important that he's not a guardian, I guess.
I would disagree in some respects. And bear with me on this perspective, because I do think him staying a guardian would have been a good thing, but I can understand why they didn't, because of some of the lines in the grimoire originally in D1 talking about Osiris's followers. We have a physical example of his fanatical followers that was causing the city to kind of have second thoughts about him in Brother Vance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess my problem was
at the reef.
He was, well, and right, there's that. But the other thing with Vance was like the problem that I have with that particular presentation is like I can see where you're going with it. However, the speaker didn't really seem to care so much about the cult of his following, except for the fact that it was the Guardians that he was driving away from what the speaker deemed as the appropriate work. So for me, it would actually still be more impactful for Vance to be a former Guardian, because actually if he was a former Guardian, it would be more of a dig to, no, he's actually pulling people away from being a Guardian. You know, I don't know. I can see, I can go both ways on that one.
Yeah. Here's a question on that front. Speaking of former Guardians, or Guardians that no longer fight that same fight, do you, as far as just kind of a left field idea, what do you think about the pacifist in respects to Osiris?
Like Aphrodite's group?
Yes.
It's
a left field idea.
Yeah, I don't think they're associated, to be honest.
No. I don't think there's, frankly, but could possibly some of the pacifists be from that original group of Osiris's Guardians?
Oh, you're saying like they're a splinter
Guardians?
cell? You're like a splintering off? Oh, I mean, like it's possible. I think, honestly, to me, the Aphrodite thing, the way that they're kind of talked down about being bug huggers, kind of strikes me more as they were out on the edge of the solar system. You know, they were the quote outer colony, you know, the outer/inner colony conflict again that we see in a lot of science fiction. And they kind of had to make their own peace with the fallen that were invading the system. And they actually did. I mean, like, that's kind of how if you put me in a corner with them, that's kind of how I see their story progressing. Is like they were forced to kind of come to terms with this, and they didn't have anything that the Fallen really wanted, because, you know, we know the Fallen were after the Great Machine, right? They don't seem to really care about anything that's not revolving around the city, especially early on. It was kind of more of like carving out their little fiefdoms and then pushing towards the traveler. And so a pacifist colony out in the edges of the solar system, it was like, if they could just make a trade with them, you know, to me, it just seems like that kind of would be more the path that was going on. Beard, I know you had something.
Well, and it comes back to Destiny's story as a whole, because it's, now granted, Destiny as a narrative is many, many, many things. But when you look at it from its basis, you could think of it more as like the difference and dichotomy of good and evil, or darkness and light, or, you know, do you attack or do you not? And you also see this from the perspective, though, and I like that you brought up Osiris and the cult of Osiris kind of like being a hidden relation, because I thought that's where it was going originally. I thought there was something that would kind of present to say, like Korra has her hidden, Osiris probably had his hidden, and they probably followed him.
Or
And that's where I thought
something like
originally, yeah. And that's where I thought originally they were going with the Cult of Osiris. Obviously, of course, that didn't happen. But then you end up seeing this this difference, though, where I think that the pacifists themselves just go to show, just as they are right now, that we are ones that push ourselves pretty hard to fight against what it is that we have, versus not really wanting to engage with them or try to work through things in a different way. And we don't know, obviously, the full thing with the pacifists yet, if they ever do decide to go ahead and bring anything else with them. But they're also trying to keep themselves hidden. Not that kind of hidden. They were basically, if you look at the card with Ephrodite, she had actually been using a different type of radio than her using like ghost communication, which is that linked to the fact that she doesn't have her ghost yet, and that's still a question. Or is she actually using a different radio frequency in order to actually communicate with somebody? That's the weird thing. Secondarily, just had a stupid thought. I don't know, a radio that can actually like reach subspace. Anyway, the whole point that I mean with this, because I know I'm going in a weird circle tangent right now. I don't think that the pacifists have any kind of like connection to Osiris. I think that they get a lot of their ideas and their hints and tricks and so on about their beliefs from other Guardians to say this is what we don't want to be, and Osiris might be one of them that they kind of poke at. But I think it's more that kind of display more than it is anything. It's just a difference in opinion. It's an alternative to how we act. I think that's the best way I can just put it.
Well, I'm kind of going along the lines of the idea of what do the Osiris ones, who what we thought were former Guardians, as in like Brother Vance, used to be. Do we have examples of that in the Grimoire where they have their beliefs of being a former Guardian is more important based off of something, instead of being a Guardian still? Or is it just the concept of why are you fighting for this aspect in particular? Osiris was just like, this is don't fight for the speaker type thing because the speaker is doing it wrong. It was kind of a rambly around the world type ish question for, were the non-Guardians called non-Guardians just because they weren't following the speaker? I know they're not necessarily non-Guardians, but were they stopping because they're not following the speaker? Or was it they literally put aside their ghost?
That's a good question.
I think that it's open-ended at this point, to be honest, because, like, let's take Vance, for example. He, going off that argument, he could be like Eris. He could no longer be a Guardian because he doesn't have a ghost anymore, and then he could say, I'm, blah, blah, blah. But that's not, like, I didn't get that vibe when I read the cards. Now, I'm not saying that's not, that someone else didn't. But I don't know. Like, I see what you're going, and I would think, like, for the pacifist group, it definitely seems like they still retain Guardian-like abilities. I think is kind of what I kind of imagine, that it's just a philosophical difference.
And setting it aside.
Right. And we see that in lore. Like, we've seen Guardians do drastically different things. I mean, Warlords, Dredge and Yor, Shadows of Yor, pick your poison there. There's Guardians who retain their powers, who are not doing things in line with the speaker.
Tower.
Yeah, or the tower, whatever you want it, whatever force of light you want, or representation of the light's leadership you want to pick there. I mean, the entire presentation of Warlords versus the Iron Lords, the warlords were guardians. Like they weren't guardians. They were light bearers, I think.
Right.
Risen.
Right. I really like the term light bearers because to me it's actually, but risen is also similar. But light bearers, I think, is a very, very telling thing for me, at least, that differentiates between, because especially in Destiny 2 now, we have people who are called guardians who are not light bearers. I mean, Hawthorne is referred to as a guardian. She's not a light bearer.
At the end.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, but Zavala kind of, that's a big deal. Zavala referring to her as a guardian, and there for a while they weren't light bearers either. Sorry, Justin.
It reinforces for me the fact that guardianship in this game is much more an ethos than it is some sort of set of physical traits or circumstances of your origin story. It's much more the set of principles that you set about embodying and the role that you take up in the world around you. And Hawthorne is a wonderful example of that. So, I mean, I had a question real quick just about the cult of Osiris. I just want to see if everyone else is on the same page as me. Was I the only one that really thought that the cultists were very legit compatriots of Osiris, and was very taken aback to find out that they were
the fact that Brother Vance and they were working together before, and then I just nothing to do with them.
Like when Brother Vance first said, "If you could just find me anything that Osiris touched, or maybe passed by, or whatever, I don't care, just find it for me." I was like, what?
Osiris is the Kurt Cobain of Destiny. You know this. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of perfect for our community, too, because the way the community has kind of idolized him, cough, blue. He's been the Kurt Cobain of the community for lore.
I'm going to say, and it ties back to what I was saying before, how it did feel like the cult of Osiris was like the hidden to Osiris, but then we come to find out that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure I wasn't the only one that was like, what?
Oh,
no.
I think everybody was a little shocked about that one.
Yeah, I think we all were like, so...
It was one of those things that, like, in retrospect actually makes sense, but, it was not one of those...
preconceived notions on the matter.
Yeah. No, and it's like what they say actually with Brother Vance, I think it is, on the Grimoire card, and Sister Feyera, I think that's who it was writing the letter to.
Are you talking about what's in chat?
Saying, maybe
about the hidden meaning or hidden secret mission,
the hidden
to the
thing.
reef.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm trying to pay attention. I am sorry, chat. But yes, the they'll never know your hidden mission or why it is that you hang around the reef. And I think that's a excellent tie back in that regard. It just we don't necessarily know what it is that their mission was. We never found out what it was, and now we kind of figure it's probably to try to find Osiris, and they tracked him back to one point to the reef.
Green. So Green, you want to know? I think. Excuse me. God. Lost prophecies.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about those a little bit, since those are kind of?
Oh boy, let me get my book.
Yeah, I am
pulling them out and putting them in chat as we speak. I'm just muting myself so you can't hear my atrocious keyboard.
The funny thing about the lost prophecies is they're a misnomer. They're not actually lost.
Right.
He still got him.
No, Ikora has him, actually.
Mm-hmm.
She did not want to go Fahrenheit 451 on him.
Yeah, she said, even though I do not agree with the person or who it is that wrote them, I do not believe in destroying knowledge. Which I think says volumes,
about Ikora.
Pun intended, about books, about Ikora. Yes.
And actually about the speaker as well.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
yes.
Was it
goes back
because
to, you know,
specifically, was it Ikora who saved them by themselves? Because wasn't there a line in one of them that said,
Eris,
anybody who wants to...
No, yeah, so she says that anyone... So she saved them initially. What I got the feeling was she refused to burn them or to destroy them, basically, when she was first ordered to. And then since then, it has been kind of grudgingly accepted back into...
It's west of Sunfall, to reference the point that we're looking at in case anybody wants to follow along.
Perfect. But yeah, and then she also kind of confesses to Eris. That was where she kind of was like, I think that's the one where she says she doesn't believe in destroying knowledge of any kind. Like she just won't do it.
It's,
I gotta say the line is,
Jack,
I
Queen,
don't... What's that? Sorry.
Jack, Queen, King 3? Isn't that what she's talking to? It's from the journals. Wait, no, it's not that one.
No, it's west of Sunfall 7. But that's the letter from Ikora Rey to Eris Morn. The line that she states is, I don't believe in burning books regardless of my opinion of the author.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta say it. And my notes that I had taken on it, and we all know how much I love the speaker, shows the speaker was all about censorship and ensuring no one came to Osiris conclusions as well. Ikora ensures that his texts are not lost, placing them in her private library. But this is also to Eris, means that this would take place after she had gone into the Hellmouth. And they do make some extra reference points to that, which means that this might have been a period of time where Eris was in a possible contemplation of banishment or something similar, and then was allowed back into the tower after Ikora pushed for it. But it also shows that they were friends for a good many years, quite possibly, which is something that's also kind of interesting. Blue, you had something to add?
Yeah, for the connection to Eris, too, because she makes a comment about how, like, I'm like, Ikora, that's kind of in bad taste, but she's like, she actually compares the banishment of Osiris while Eris was in the Hellmouth. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that might be a little... Why would you say that? I'm like, I would not have... Ikora, like, no. But
she comes back out of the Hellmouth, looks at Ikora and goes, so what you're telling me is you would rather lose your ghost, lose your eyes, and all of your friends.
I was like, no. But it also confirmed, like, Eris is a member of the Hidden, and from what we have seen in the new information on the Hidden with Ikora, they all seem very close to Ikora, which, again, kind of makes sense, given that their purpose is to be her, basically, personal spy network. They are not restricted to warlocks, by the way.
Thank goodness.
Because the two named Hidden that we have are hunters.
Eris.
Mm-hmm.
Which, given
Shinmouth here totally is one.
I would.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
I would be okay with that.
I've already made that speculation, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I'm like, I can see that connection, given the cadence of his conversation with her, and then given the conversation with Dragon's Shadow entry, the way that they talk to each other, I can see that.
Added a couple extra pieces behind that too, with Shin. He's also kind of a point of goodness, if I can think today and talk, a point of research for Ikora, because he's a very interesting idea of a ghost that ends up taking over a living body, and it is something different for that one. But yeah, I continue to find relevant impact that Shin Malfura very well could be a Hidden, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I would be completely okay with that, which is another hunter. That is it. But anyways, the other thing, The other thing is, for Eris especially, we do know that there was kind of a transitory period that she was not allowed in the tower. And it actually, I think it's kind of cool that it clarifies that Ikora was the one that was pushing for her to, which makes sense given that Eris was a hidden. But Ikora was the one that was actually pushing against the speaker, because the speaker originally was kind of the one that was against her return because of the concern for her being tainted. With her little, fingers on the mind issues.
Fingertips on the surface of my mind.
Yes.
Is that the quote you're talking about?
Yeah.
Thank you for your input, Eris.
Yeah, thank you for your input, Eris. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, first time I heard that line, I was like, oh, okay, Eris, you're just keeping up with the crowd.
I just love Zavala's reaction to it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
That's like Cade when she says it's not a funeral, and he goes, yeah, it's a funeral.
Right. Side note, I continue to think that Escher Mir might also be one of the hidden, but that goes a little bit further.
That
I could see
like
that.
Yeah.
Has nobody put together that Asher might be Dr. Shem?
Oh, you. Calm down. He's totally Dwayne McKnight.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's
Wouldn't
where
that
his,
be hilarious?
That's
Like,
where his anger comes from.
Exactly. He gets resurrected. He's like, that Dr. Shim guy was such a jerk in my past life, but I don't remember him, and I don't actually know the guy. I'm just that perturbed.
Speaking of can't remember, should we talk about the Osiris line from D1? Talking about whether or not our ghost reprograms us.
Yeah,
like that?
so basically the questions from the Osiris Grimoire card. One of which was how much. So here I have them written down. They were. First one was how much of a guardian's personality and memories were true. How much had been fabricated by their ghost. And then he asked, did guardians share particular personality traits, a willingness to yield to authority, a tendency to do anything anyone asked for the promise of an uncertain reward, a blind knight-errant mentality? And then the last one was, had the traveler manufactured all of you as living weapons? I love the second one simply because it's making fun of players.
Right.
Which I will continuously point out every time I bring this question up.
I will say that
Osiris
there's a couple
is breaking
of them that make fun of
Oh
our
yeah, no.
players.
Even in it continues in the Curse of Osiris DLC. There's a couple comments from him, and I can't. It's a couple of the lore, the Lost Prophecies. You can read them as him kind of being like, again, Osiris is kind of the Deadpool of Destiny in that regard.
We also have armor that's literally called Errant Knight.
Which is amazing armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good.
But it does beg the question as far as where the complete control of the Guardians come from. And that's also where a lot of the concern that happens in the Arcibo mission is coming from, at least for me, because if you kind of daisy chain those connections, if the Ghost and the Traveler are controlling the Guardians, and the Ghost and the Traveler can have their memories rewritten with what seems like pretty easy access by a war mind, that really opens up the possibilities of dangerous conclusions.
I would actually put forward a slight counter to that, with Sagira being able to take over Ghost or share Ghost, and then really having no effect on us in the meantime. I mean, that's not a huge way to
That's
argue
a fair
it,
point.
but
That's a
it
fair
does
point.
provide kind of context a little bit more, like, okay, maybe our ghost isn't exactly controlling us so much as
because that was
guide.
one of the fun theories from Destiny 1, was that we actually are playing the Ghost. Because you never see the Ghost until you pull out your menu.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's just one of those like fun little digs at an explanation of game mechanics inside a lore would be that we are actually playing our ghost who is controlling our guardian.
Which means we talk all the time.
Yeah.
We never shut
exactly.
up.
That's why I'm not upset that people keep saying that our character doesn't talk. My character talks all the time. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I make up my own dialogue.
Well, we know, Justin. We know.
Yes, Justin. It's okay, Justin.
On the topic of whether or not the ghost puts the memories there, or you know, whether they're the real memories, I think you have to assume that the ghost puts them there, because if you think of a dead person, there's no electrical signal in their brain anymore. So anything that's in that person's head is going to be reconstructed by the ghost, in my opinion.
I present to you the new Shinobu's Vow. Anybody read this one yet?
Yeah.
Because this is a weird one.
I just got it. I actually just got it
Did you?
the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
I would actually read over that one if you get a moment. Only
I'll put it on right now.
It's a bit of a head trip. It is a little bit of a head trip.
That was
I'm going to
just
say, after you like reread it about 50 times, you start to actually figure out that like several different things, and it almost seems like Shinobu is fully resurrected almost immediately after death, which is very interesting, the way that I read it at the very least.
Well, because it seemed to me that she didn't die until the Dark Age.
Exactly.
Which I think we kind of have some... I mean, like, we know that Shinobu was around.
Well, and we know that they were...
That was a really weird... No, I was just going to say, it was just a really weird entry to read.
I'm going to say, before I go down that tangent on that angle, even though I know it ties back very well to what we're kind of talking about, it's worth looking into for the idea and science, if you will, behind resurrection, because it doesn't seem like every ghost is needing to find somebody that existed or had only existed during the Golden Age, which is a very interesting point. Again, this ties back to another figure we've already talked about, which would be Shin Malfur. How much of it does it really matter? Do they have to necessarily get along? Do they have to be Marcus, Ren, and Diddy? What? I didn't just say that. There's several pieces through that card alone that really make me kind of question what ghosts have to go through in order to actually find a guardian and resurrect them. Totally wonderful little aside that was Shinobu.
Would you mind if I read it? Because I have it pulled up.
Totally.
No supplies, armor and tatters, but the refugees had asked for help, and she had given her word. Tale of the Six Coyotes. I don't know how to write this. I died. Well, Shinobu died. This is hard. But she must have kept this journal for a reason, so here goes. One of the hunters, Nadia, told me that most guardians were dead for centuries before ghosts find them. When all traces of their first lives are gone, Nadia is the name she chose for herself. Shinobu isn't your name anymore, Nadia said. It could be, I said. Then Nadia said, Shinobu and I were going to skip town. She told me I, Shinobu, had realized there was no stopping the fallen, that her village, Coyote, was doomed. She wanted to leave this place, Nadia said. She didn't want to die here. So much for that. Excerpt from the diary of Himura Shinobu. So...
And Shinobu was already a really interesting character to me to begin with. There were like these little... I don't usually get into Hunter lore, I should say that. But Shinobu was cool only because it felt like there was something a little bit more about her. Plus we had the bandwagon, I think, that was also given to us. That was a really kind of quaint one, kind of the way that was all put together. And then there was another story that actually talks about the actual engagement within Coyote, since we now have like full confirmation of this. And it almost makes me think that obviously, of course, to tie back to the town itself, that the 6 coyotes, the hunter group that's here, is completely born of this village. And it makes me wonder how many other groups are actually born of the same kind of maybe subconscious level connections that may or may not have existed in the past in their past lives.
Anna Bray.
Well, we also
look at that.
know Cade has records of his past life.
Well, and I find it funny that both Shinobu and Cade have these journals that they ended up keeping. We don't hear of a lot of others that had them. Now, granted, I'm sure there are plenty of others and other records that we can find, but we don't know of many others that recalled that they had these journals handy. Cade and Shinobu seem to be the only two that really pick into this. Unless Shinobu is Cade. No, never mind.
No.
Oh, no.
Cade is Rasputin, right?
Yeah, there
Wait,
you
that's
go.
next week's topic.
Hey-o.
Huh.
Spoilers.
No, sort of.
Sort of
not.
spoilers.
This Shinobu card, though, is just...
Well, and it very well ties back to like I had said before, without really wanting to get on topic, even though I was the one that brought it up. Anyway,
Right.
with Osiris, it ties back so well because of this question: how much of a guardian's mind is really embedded from their ghost, or what else was there? Either she is told her name is Shinobu, or she knows that her name is Shinobu.
She knows it
What's
from
the difference?
the journal.
Well, does she know it from the journal, or does she know it from Nadia? And then that leads back to, did Nadia know it beforehand because of the journal, or did Nadia know it beforehand because it was Nadia, and they both talked?
Well,
And
I don't
that's
think
where this really weird mind screw comes and kind of forms.
I don't think they became guardians at the same time. The way I'm reading it is Nadia was a hunter that came to the town first and said that Shinobu and her were going to skip town, and then Shinobu had died, and then the ghost rose her. Which is also kind of awkward, because if Nadia is there when Shinobu becomes risen, that's a whole another weird little mind thing that's okay, it's not super personal. Other people
Right.
can be around for it.
Right.
But where did the ghost come from?
Yeah.
Did the ghost come from her?
And especially when this ghost either seemed to have been hanging around that whole time in a slightly, almost completely past devastated city of or town of Coyote.
Right.
It didn't seem like it was necessarily from the stuff that we know of. And if it is held all true that Shinobu did revive immediately, or near immediately after her death, that would mean that it is a pretty frantic combat zone, or would have just been a past combat zone. And we know ghosts are pretty smart, or try to keep their heads down about a lot of things, unless they're like Siva corrupted or something else like Holborn talks about. There's not a lot to say that they don't want to be out in the open so much. But,
Right. Okay, so I keep bouncing back to the prophecies because there's little tidbits, and they're just infuriating, because prophecies are meant to be infuriating. Because they're not meant to give you exactly what's going on.
Which is really funny because he actually talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the key to prophesizing, is stay vague.
Mm-hmm.
well,
But-
that's the whole idea behind him. How much do you say before you change things, or how much do you not say in order to not have people act? That's why he leaves them in these. What's the way that he
Fidget cubes.
Yeah. Well, it's iambic couplets. I always forget how it's put. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that's one of the things I just want to read and record.
Right.
It's just
Ikora
record
has
the
a very
prophecies.
dithering view on his reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Wait, what was hers?
He's
As to why-
Right.
I gotta say, as to why he had to write the prophecies in iambic couplets, simple: vanity.
I love that.
I'm going to say between both the Aeon armor and the prophecies, I had actually written down all of them in a straight poem, and it's pretty. It's kind of interesting to read them straight through.
Well, did you read Traveler's Judgment? I'm sure you did. Not just the prophecy, but the card itself, where it talks about how to interpret it.
Right. Yeah, it adds this extra weird layer that gets thrown into like how far into the prophecies he knew about, how far like into the future he kind of knew about. But this comes back to like what Osiris had mentioned, like how far do you end up telling something about it? Because one interpretation could be completely wrong. This is why he keeps people guessing. And that's where I kind of like that he puts them in this way, because you have these guys that now study them. They study these prophecies, and they can say, well, this is how far it got, versus, what could it actually be, or what does Osiris actually imply by a lot of this?
Well, yeah, and even to go further beyond that, one of the last lines in that card says, I must assume, 1, either verse 5 does not refer to the traveler's awakening, or 2, Osiris has a prophetic resource at his disposal other than the forest, because it talks about in the card how if the Vex cannot correctly simulate light, which I'm super glad that the writing team thought about this ahead of time, because this would have been something the lore community would have picked them apart on. If these Vex cannot accurately simulate light, how did Osiris predict the traveler would wake?
Right.
Which kind of makes your mind just break a little bit. Like, okay, maybe he does have something else, or maybe he's writing poetic verses of something he'd like to see happen. Because beginning of the card talks about how it could theoretically attach to events that we've already witnessed.
And especially with the way that a couple of them are written. I'll read the one here. To tower comes a war in red, an orphan sounds the empire's call. Mortal angels mourn the dead, while lightless light wraps night in pall. And for me, I thought that's where the speaker had died until I get towards the end. And it reads in a different kind of way. And that's what I find clever about these, if nothing else, because again, it kind of comes back to your interpretation. All of a sudden, I'm like interpreting them in different parts of like what we ended up doing with Destiny's Story or anything else. And the one that also passes back to like the speaker would be the final one, which is number 10. See who's robed as if a god who stood with pride above the rest. Destroy this ancient nameless fraud. Destroy the one whose death was blessed. By the way, total fraud. Moving on. Just had to get that in there.
Was his death actually blessed, though? Because you could do the whole fraud thing being the speaker, but because this is written in such a vague way, it can mean a lot of things. Destroy the one whose death was blessed.
And that's the key that screws me up reading that.
Well, it's a guardian of some sort. Is what I'm reading.
And that's what makes me think, or as Blue just said in chat too, it could be Gaul or something of that notion. I don't know.
Well, okay. The reason why I don't think it's Gaul is because in the 5th verse, and I keep coming back to this because it actually talks about the prevalent theories within the followers of Osiris.
Right.
Is that the first 5 verses, just the first 5, refer to the Black Garden, the coming of Gaul, and the Traveler's awakening, and then its subsequent defeat, which obviously looking back is you can interpret it as being that, even though you could theoretically say, okay, yes, that fits, but that may not be the event it's actually talking about, which is the problem with all prophecies.
Right.
You can assign them afterwards, but that may or may not actually be the truth.
Because for me, interpretation, and this is why I think to any listener that's out there, I think it's very important that if you get the chance to read over these things in order, at least so what we're kind of figuring is the order, 1 through 10, in order to kind of grasp how it would all kind of work out or be put together, because reading it from 1 to 10 does make a ton of sense. It does seem like it all flows together very well. But there is the thought right now that with the forge and the way that that's put together, with the way that everything kind of lights up, that might actually show the true order in which everything should be going. Which I haven't seen if that would have actually panned out or not.
Some of this writing, though, is my favorite of the Curse of Osiris release. Like, oh god, there's some...
These Assyrian weapons are just my favorite so far. Like, I can't get over how good they are.
The weapons themselves or the writing for the weapons?
Just both of them. Like, between the prophecy and between the lore tabs that are held within, they are easily my most my favorite part so far of Destiny 2's lore, because they go into so many different things.
Right.
You've got it where they talk about, like, the main point is Osiris, and they almost seem like they barely knack on Osiris. They start talking about these little extras that you can start to really pull away from, like the way that the city handles, the way that these prophecies are kind of acting upon within the tower, the way that the consensus is being built, the way that the speaker is handling himself. It isn't all about Osiris, and that's what I love about these things, the way that they're put together.
The problem is, and Blue's going to love this because he's quietly typing and probably muted himself. All these cards are very outside of Osiris, but they all lead to Osiris, because what it's very much so making apparent is Osiris has touched so many things in the world. Yeah, all roads lead to Osiris. There you go, Blue. I'm surprised you're not, like, screaming it from the rooftops.
I'm being polite.
He's bolding it and, like, yelling it in chat in all caps, and all caps bolded. It's like, okay.
Also italics.
All roads lead to Osiris.
Which these cards kind of show you, because you have a card about Brother Vance, just the basic introduction. Then you have Shax talking about the Crucible. Then you have the Journals of Ikora Ray and more writings from Brother Vance. I mean, there's so many different things that it touches.
Well, and that's where I think that it was... I know I'm kind of going back to last week's episode here in a little bit of a way, but for me, I was at a point where, and I think a lot of people could kind of say that they were kind of questioning where Destiny 2's lore might go. Reading over these things kind of gave me a little bit of renewed vigor in terms of, like, what I wanted to kind of see, or the direction that I was hoping to see things happen. Which is what I kind of thought that they were going to do. Like, you've got that base with Destiny 2. Now let's expand upon it. Now let's build upon it. Let's do some world building. And that's exactly what these cards did. Not even these. Like, I cannot think of... Well, okay, hang on. Except for Gestures Gemini, which I'm still really confused about. That is I think, only one that I can sit back and look at and go, what is happening here? The rest of them, I'm, like, totally excited for. 20-minute long video based off of the fact that Perfect Paradox and Grey Pigeon talk about Saint 14's inspiration. No, that didn't make me go on a tangent line for 20 minutes at all. Not one bit.
It also, we have
roads.
Roads.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
If my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious stuff.
For context, check out Beard's latest video on Saint 14 as a time traveler in Back to the Future.
Yes, totally. He is Marty McFly, okay?
Oh my goodness!
I now want a
Yes, welcome
DeLorean
to
Sparrow.
Beard sent me his script for this. Was it
Yeah, I
Monday
saw
that you
it.
sent it to me?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say I think I had that all done a few days, and then it took me like 2 or 3 days to get the thing made up. But
Can I just say how excited he was to actually release this, because he sent me notifications about having not responded to the fact he sent me this thing and that I should read it.
I was like, "Hey, still didn't respond. What do you think of the thing?"
And then I felt really bad because he had already made the video by the time I did finally read it and could comprehend what he was talking about, because I was like, what? Timey-wimey?
Yeah, really.
No.
I tried my best, but I know it's all over the place.
You did better than Blue did when the first time Blue tried to explain some of the time traveling theory to me, which
Right.
I sent you guys a pretty little picture about the time travel theories.
Yup. And we're totally in the middle one.
Yeah,
I would just like to say that one for sure.
Which is
like
why it's called Perfect Paradox.
Can we explain that before?
Yeah,
we move
yeah.
on
So
from that?
so there's three predominant theories of time travel. And I have a really cool little picture. If you guys are in our Discord server and you want it, that actually does a pretty fair job of explaining these. The first one is going to be what's normally called a fixed timeline. And basically the way that they explain this is, even when parties travel back in time, the future they left cannot be changed. So all events remained as fixed points in time. The actions of the traveler in the past have already become part of history. And this is actually known as the Novikov self-consistency principle. And the example that they give is, say you travel back in time in order to kill Hitler as a baby, in order to prevent World War II. Common trope in time travel things. You replace him with an orphan baby so that the family will not notice. You travel back to the future, and the replaced baby grows up to become Adolf Hitler himself. It's self-consistent. Videos that do this a lot. 12 Monkeys does this. Harry Potter 3 apparently does this. I don't know. I didn't watch Harry Potter. And the Terminator.
With Hermione and her time turner. I am pop culture Harry Potter fan. Sorry.
Okay. Fair. No. I mean, I legitimately don't. I haven't watched Harry Potter. The next one. I'm actually going to jump to the last one, because I'm going to come back to the one that is relevant to this conversation. The next one is the multiverse theory, and this is the concept of multiverse. Or alternate timelines. And so what happens here is, in an infinite number of parallel universes, traveling to the past causes a new divergent timeline from the first. Because of this, the traveler can do anything with impunity, and only the new timeline will be affected. Basically, this is the answer to the grandfather paradox. If you travel back in time and kill all your grandparents, nothing happens. There is no paradox. You have simply created a new timeline in which you will not exist, but the original timeline is unaffected. However, note here, you cannot return to your original timeline, because you have basically been locked out of it. You see this in Terminator 2 and 3, Misfits, and the recent Star Trek in 2009. Mm-hmm. Now, the big one that's relevant to this conversation is the dynamic timeline. And this is the one that creates a lot of head trips, because in a dynamic timeline, altered events in the past have definite impacts on the present. So, if you travel back in time and kill your grandfather, you also prevent your own birth and your eventual travel back in time to kill your grandfather. Therefore, your grandfather is never killed. You are born again only to go back in time and kill your grandfather anyways. So basically what happens is this creates an infinite loop, which is deemed the paradox. This is seen in Back to the Future, because this is the grandfather paradox. Is you can't,
this is the
in
one
a dynamic
that
model,
head blows up trying to figure out.
You can't figure it out. I mean,
right.
That's the problem. Is in a dynamic timeline, it's paradoxes, because you have to the theory of existence in general is that there has to be a consistent and integral time continuum. Like if you break time. It's not like oh darn, you don't exist anymore. That enters into the moth prophecy, and all that. So like if you suddenly disappear, if you're in a dynamic timeline, every ripple effect that you've created throughout your life will have been undone, which then creates more ripples and then more ripples, and and it just continues to go down that path. And that's also the problem with dynamic timeline, is simply by your presence being in the past, you have changed things. Because the way the universe exists, you step on a blade of grass, it doesn't matter. You have changed the layer of events that then can ripple and create multitudes of issues in the present time. Dynamic timeline is extremely problematic within any form of, like, if you're talking to a real I don't even know what it's not quantum, but it's like basically philosophy or anything like that in reality. Dynamic timeline, I don't know many people who really think that dynamic timeline exists.
Viable.
It's because it's not viable. Because it is and it's not. It is and it's not. Like, you can't. If you understand time as a forward progression or a retrograde progression, like there's two directions. You by having a dynamic timeline, it is consistently going to negate any efforts to create time travel in general. Whereas with a fixed timeline or a multiverse, like a fixed timeline, basically what it's saying is that if you go back in time and do something, it's already been done. Therefore, the problem with fixed timeline is that it removes a lot of possibility of what's considered free will, because everything is predestined. From a I hesitate to call it a spiritual level, but it's kind of a spiritual level. The predestination argument is very, very difficult to overcome in a fixed timeline. Whereas in a multiverse, you still have your free will, but then in a multiverse, the problem there is that you have alternate realities. And the question becomes there is, like, if you go back in time and change something, well, technically you didn't change the original, but your existence changes because you are now, quote unquote, locked out of the original timeline.
I think there's actually evidence in Destiny's lore of dynamic timelines, because they talk about bootstrap paradoxes.
And they also talk about stepping
and when we don't know if something is from the past or the future, or it's old, it's very old, but it's from the future. It's kind of trippy.
Well, time travel in general is it's just a headache waiting. I mean, like, no, and I don't mean to downplay. I mean, that is a very, like, those were probably terrible explanations of the three most prevalent. Like, there's a multitude of theories. Well, but what I mean is, like, that was a very quick and dirty explanation of time travel theories.
That was not the explanation that Osiris would have given, we'll put it that way.
Right. Well, and I mean, but the thing is like, and there are, like, volumes of works on temporal displacement and temporal, manipulation and stuff like that nature.
Oh yeah.
And some of it's very fascinating, but a lot of it, like, you read and it's like your brain hurts. Like, I mean, it feels like you've gotten a drill put through your skull, just simply because it challenges the very concept of being able to travel through time, challenges your basic level of understanding of what time is, even on the most fundamental level. Because to say, I mean, if you stop and think, even the statement "travel through time" implies that time has a physical quality to it that you can travel through. and depending on your theory of, of existence, that can or that could, potentially have its own ramifications that, that need to be taken into consideration. So it's like, the entire principle of time travel itself requires you to understand certain, I hesitate to call them basic truths, but certain foundational axioms, I guess. And those are in very big, very, very counter to a lot of our very, very commonly understood and, kind of just unconscious level of understanding of what time is. But, and I mean, this is getting into, that gets into stuff like, Einstein's, quantum realities and stuff like that. And the way that those are folded on each other and all that. And it's like I said, it's really fascinating, but you start staggering the connections because
quantum mechanics remind
everything
me
is connected.
Of,
everything is connected is
yeah.
the thing. I mean, it really is. Everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's the butterfly effect, but
it is
on a more macro. Yeah,
it's almost like a convergence.
Oh,
geez.
Trying to work that. He's been working that in for the last 20 minutes. So
look, I got called out for covering Dead Space. I would just like to cover the fact that they talk about convergence in Dead Space. So
you can't.
Moving on.
I mean, yeah. Convergence is a very common.
It is.
And even the concept, like even the I mean, so like, I mean, this is what Green's talking about. Like, when do you say all roads lead to Osiris? It's like, it's ironic because his biggest concern is convergence, and yet everything converges on him. Like,
as far as story,
right. But I mean, it's just to me, I find that kind of humorous. Is like his biggest fear is the Vex's convergence of all things, and like all this lore is like, it's literally converging on him. Like everything is connected to him. So do
you think that that's possibly because of the underlying nature that is the Vex? Like the fact that the Vex permeate everything throughout
I think
lift and weave of this story.
I think
and that's his area of expertise.
I think that, I mean, like you see, even within the Vault of Glass, you saw their stated desire of being to weave themselves into the very laws of reality. I definitely see that. Green, I know you were going to say something.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that Osiris's obsession with convergence kind of is. Well, okay, Osiris and the Vex are not mirrors of each other, but you find things most fascinating to you if it's somewhat related to you. Now, I'm not saying that, like, Osiris is, like, the light version of the Vex or anything like that. I'm merely saying that Osiris's predisposition to obsess about the Vex is similar to his own desire for knowledge, desire for understanding outcomes, desire for creating what he wants to see. It kind of fits in my head as far as canon-wise that Osiris would be the character that would be most interested in the Vex, because Osiris is similar to the Vex in a lot of ways.
Which, chat right now is ironically triggering me on this particular trope.
He became what he hates.
My response to that is actually, it begs the question: did he become what he hates, or does he hate it because
that way?
Does he hate it because that's what he is?
Right.
I say 2. I say number 2, my lord. Number 2.
Right. I mean, does he hate it because he understands it so innately because that's what he is? Or did he stare into the abyss too long?
we fight those things within us that we hate the most.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and added to that, it's kind of interesting that we, lead down this little road because we have the two choices that Osiris kind of presents to us. In that, would we rather be conquered by the darkness or by the Vex?
Right.
And he would always go ahead and say, well, that's silly. I would always choose to be conquered by the darkness because the Vex are what you would call pure evil. And in this line of thinking, though, there is this third way that is technically produced, because who is it that's talking to you at that point? It's Osiris. Mm-hmm. So you have the third path in which you could end up following him, in which case that could lead from all these possibilities of doom. And
wait, there's three options? Like there's
the maybe like queens?
Right,
I think something about queens.
Okay. All right.
Maybe?
Maybe.
I think so. Maybe.
We still have two things
Toland?
to deal with.
Where's
as well.
Toland?
Where's Toland?
We still have to deal with the siblings as well, so...
Right.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's a fun new one to deal with.
That ties into Zur quotes.
Mm-hmm. Which, that was kind of... Okay. I give people so much credit for coming up with spin theory stuff, because spin theory is not easy to come up with something that just makes you scratch your head and go, how would that work? I mean, you think it would be easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to come up with this crazy theory. But
that's what Justin does all the time.
No.
Well, yeah. Making it viable is the hard part.
I'm just going to say, Libby made me pause today mid-work. Like, I was working on writing checks for people, and I saw Libby mention in mod chat earlier today about Zur.
Yeah.
And I went, huh? How? Like, how would you make that work? And what he ended up saying is, like, Zur is a futuristic version taken over by the 9 version of Osiris. And I was like, what? What? No. How? Why? That's so, like, no. What?
Please no.
Or wasn't the other option pancake?
Yes.
Or how about Vance? He makes no sense.
Yes.
He makes no sense.
That would be hilarious.
I like this line of thinking. Let's carry on with this.
The 9 are actually Osiris, and he's just projected himself 9 times because he didn't think anyone else was capable of holding an intelligent conversation with him. This is all working out.
Can I just say that his reflections don't actually have necessarily... They have a directive?
That's not true. That's not true. You need to play the strike. You need to play the strike.
See,
because that's a problem. That's a problem that happens in the strike, actually.
Okay.
That that is literally the problem that you have to clean up in the strike is the reflection. Basically, it's the multiple man theory. And
okay.
He's like, I don't want to go back. And Osiris does not take that.
That's awkward.
Yeah, but yes, most of the reflections that we see in like campaign and just in general seem to be
we must report back to Osiris.
Right, they're binary. Like they're like, do this, go back, do this, go back, do this, go back. But yeah, in the strike on here, the reflection disagrees. And I can't remember the exact detail, but like he basically is like, no, we're going to do this instead. And it creates a lot of problems.
My favorite model is the multiplicity model. Have you seen the Michael Keaton movie Multiplicity?
Oh God, yes. Yeah, that's very similar to Multiple Man from Marvel. Is it Marvel that has Multiple Man or DC? I can't ever remember on that one.
Well, they both have a version.
They both have versions of him.
Yeah.
There's DC has Billy Numerous. Yeah.
I like your Osiris is the 9 theory.
Osiris is the 9.
Because
He's the 9.
Couldn't find anyone
Zer is super jazzed about Osiris and just wants to talk to you about Osiris.
Even
But
though he has
Osiris
no
is
idea
a nine.
and he has no understanding.
You need
of the
Justin.
nine.
You need, by the way, while we're talking the tangent of Zer, you need to talk to Kashin about her theory of Zer.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
And that's what Zer's face is.
Beer knows this one.
That's what Zer's
Don't
face
ask her
is.
about the puddles either. Okay.
Oh god, the puddles. That one
Zer's
makes me
face.
laugh. I almost brought that up with Belle the other day. I was like, you need to have Anna on the show because Anna's theories are hilarious and it does make you think.
Zer's face is literally groupie face. He's so jazzed about Osiris, his face is trying to like reach out and
Touch somebody.
like it.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like the
God.
Beatles are in town.
Oh my.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
Wait, what about Kepri?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, I went there.
Oh man.
I like it.
As a side note, in case anybody cares, Jamie Madrox is made by Marvel. That is Multiple Man.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, multiple, but there is an entire crisis with Multiple Man, where this like the thing that happened in the strike in Osiris actually happened to him on multiple occasions. Actually, all of the occasions. Oh, all right. Well, I think I think did we touch? Oh, we didn't touch on the siblings. Do we want to touch on the siblings before we sign
Are
off
they-
for the night?
Should
Like
we
Theora and
Or do we want to put on the poll the Lost Prophecies?
I think the Lost Prophecy they should be their own thing.
They really should.
Because there's a lot to dig into them and there's a lot of speculation that we could have. Bravo Bungie for making fun of the lore group so many different times in this
Mhm.
DLC. Because this is another section where they kind of poke at us a little bit.
Mhm.
I love it.
I do too. It's fun.
Oh, yes. Dancing. Thank you for that. There is a card. I believe it is the 7th card.
Where Segura goes and visits Osiris.
And we find out that the dark future still happens.
It's number 9.
Number 9,
Calamity.
Okay, 10 or 9.
So
Yeah.
yes, there is a card inside the Lost Prophecies in which Segura, and this takes place after the campaign, where you see Osiris actually confirming that even though we, quote, stopped the dark future, it still happens.
No, we stopped what's his face?
The doggy.
Panoptes.
Well,
No,
we
the doggy's the wasn't the dog the raid lair?
Panoptes?
Argos. Which one was Argos? Wasn't Argos Panoptes the one that was recently introduced?
well, I'm gonna say Panoptes. Yeah, that's the
Panoptes is the one from the
Vex Mind.
campaign. The campaign.
Right.
yeah.
What was the variant
That's the one
form
we
that was
got.
just later? It was Argos.
Uh,
It was Odysseus's dog.
don't remember.
I'm
Okay.
drawing a blank on that right now. I think I'm too tired.
Fair enough. I don't remember. I don't remember because I haven't played it. So
Oh, Argos was the raid layer. That's
Raid
why it's
layer.
not
Okay,
coming
yeah.
to me. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, thank
That's
you.
a dog.
We haven't done that yet.
FYI, Argos is a dog.
Spoiler.
No, it's a no. Like the name Argos is Odysseus's dog from the Iliad
The raid layer is not about
or
a dog,
the Odyssey.
though.
Actually, technically, no, it's not
No,
about.
if there's not at least one dog, I'm going to be very upset.
There's
But-
not. Watch, okay, if you want to
But,
watch a hilarious version of the raid layer playthrough, watch Mr. Fruit go through it with
Mhm.
Datto and Tefty. Tefty is so, like, done by the end of it. It's quite amusing. He's just like, there's a jumping puzzle where you have to kind of follow the leader and jump synchronized. And of course, Fruit and his Blue and oh god, they're just kind of screw off sometimes. And Tefty's just like, I'm hating my life right now. Why did I let Datto talk me into this? It was amazing.
He should really know better. But
It was good.
yeah, speaking of, you say it's not about a dog. I would argue after that if you go ahead and read over some of the lore tabs, actually.
Right, but I'm saying that
See a man
you're
about a
not
dog.
fighting a physical dog.
Green's like, I don't care. There's not a canine in the mouth.
You're not fighting a physical dog. You're shooting minds off of a Vex mind core type thing.
Look, Green. If I have to walk into that gosh darn plant ever again with the dang fortress and the things with the seeds,
The stings.
Exactly. You see where I'm going with this. If I ever see another doggo in a callous raid again, it'd be too freaking soon.
You don't have to see doggos in that one. Not that I remember.
Well, all I meant by pointing that out more than anything, it's just very funny if you read over all the new lore tabs.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the way that it sounds like he kind of has Argos put together, or the way that it seems like he's trying to pan things out. And it's just interesting how it does kind of tie back into all of the original meanings of what we had with like Roman times and everything. It was just, It's fun. It's a fun little connection, if nothing else.
All right, guys, you got shout outs for us this week? We'll get that put up on the poll. I'll chat with some people about how, if we need to divide them up or if we should put them all. We'll chat about that offline. But shout outs for this week. Oh, actually, we did have one dispatch real quick from, let me make sure I get this guy's name right. Leal DV on Twitter. He has the most important question. Where did Osiris get his beard?
Right. So I will have to say I did not make that connection because beards are really not that important to me. Because if you I'm a girl, guys. I never deal with them. I live in Colorado. They're constantly everywhere. I don't care.
Just love the gasp.
It's just like, like I have 3 bearded co-hosts at this point. It's fine. It's fine. My grandpa had a beard. It's fine. But I did not
you're
make
making it better.
It's just I didn't make that connection until I saw you blow up on that, Blue.
It's like, what? Because who was it? Beard, didn't you send the picture with Saladin with the big beard? I was like, I'm done. now Saladhead has a beard.
Yep. I was just like, oh good. This is great.
Maybe we will get beards.
Never.
If you guys get beards, I don't know, but I want something for the girls too.
We're not continuing this line of conversation on podcast. We're not continuing this line of
I didn't say facial hair. God. Jeez, Blue. If a girl wants facial hair, she should never mind.
You know what? Anyway, shout outs. Green already did her shout out.
No, did I? Wait, no.
No.
Shout out to female facial hair.
Yes. Shout out to Blue's female facial hair.
Don't throw me under the bus on this one.
My shout out actually goes to all of our Twitter accounts because I don't think we've announced that we all have Twitter in a long time. I think we just kind of assume that everybody knows we have Twitter.
What's Twitter?
But the thing that I'm constantly helping you with.
Yes, I know. It's the thing that the little bird lives on that tells us all these things.
I posted a picture of a very tantalizing soda.
Yes, I saw your pumpkin pie soda. That sounds awesome. I had a pumpkin pie beer earlier this evening.
This is also the best way to aggravate Justin is on Twitter. Send him all the snack gifts.
I saw a snake that was using itself as a sleeping bag. I was slightly disturbed and halfway thought about sending it to him.
Wait, back up.
gross.
It used
That's
itself
gross.
as the sleep. It just basically wrapped itself up and folded it on top of itself to kind of
okay.
cut its own head. It did not turn its body inside
I
out.
was like, that's what I was like. Did it eat itself? Because
No, that would be awkward. It'd be also kind of cool too.
Also, I wouldn't put it past the slimy little suckers. You know, can't trust one.
Never trust a snake. Is that the adage?
Pretty much.
What do you think, Justin? What's your shout out? Is it to the snakes in the world?
Yeah. No shout outs for snakes because I feel like their vicious snake agenda is pushed, fairly often these days in the media. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say big shout out to you guys for listening to my nonsense, and also a big shout out to a physician's assistant named Robert who pried a piece of metal from my iris yesterday as I was in the emergency room with a piece of metal in my eye. So way to go, you. Good
way
job.
to go, you. Yeah, that's we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Because yeah.
No, you've been playing blind the whole time and doing
Yes, I can.
a great job.
He's
at it.
channeling Brother Vance.
Oh God.
I can see.
Good. Do you have to wear like a patch or anything? Because my puppy got.
No.
Are you
the
are
eye
you
a couple-
Thor? Are you the new
No,
Odin son?
I'm not.
Is he
I'm not
Odin?
although I have been told I have a very Hemsworth physique, but no, I'm not wearing that.
Wait.
I'm like
I'm
equal parts. I'm like equal parts Chris Hemsworth and Kylo Ren. Like that's my physique.
Wow.
No. They say we can see ourselves most clearly, right? That's the adage.
I'm glad you have great self-esteem.
I know, right? I know, right? There's only one thing I'm at, and it's being humble.
Also, Blue, your GIF in chat is evil.
No, but seriously though, I spent some very uncomfortable hours yesterday in the wee morning in the emergency room. So
Yeah.
very
glad
much
you're
thanks to the
okay.
person who got in there with the Q-tip and got the piece of metal out of my eye. That's my shout out. That's I think all I need.
Yeah, that's a good one. Beard, what about you?
Just honestly, constant thanks to everybody who tries to make sure that I actually get some semblance of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm really bad at that. And the holidays are really kind of starting to show that I'm really bad at that. So thanks. Big time, because I wouldn't be sleeping without you constantly reminding me, hey, go to bed now and again. Even for like 2 hours. It's fine. Okay. Otherwise, I just really do want to say to everybody per this point, just be safe, because I know we've got the holidays coming up full force. Drivers are getting crazier and crazier out on the road because that's the nature of things. Just be safe. Do what you need to. Take time for yourself. Take time for you and the family. And quite frankly, just enjoy life as much as you can. Because in this crazy world, especially after the last week, everybody just grab a cold one or grab an adult beverage, as Justin said at the top of the show. Just enjoy yourselves, and definitely just take it easy, especially with this season, because oh my god.
Holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one more shout out before you go.
Okay, go.
Oh no.
And this is a shout out to somebody who's probably never going to listen to this, but my coworkers
that's a good
know
one.
me. My coworker really knows me really well.
Oh, I remember you saying this.
They for Secret Santa, which we don't know who our Secret Santa is because we do it through an online thing, which is kind of cool that sets it up. my Secret Santa got me a Destiny 1 cup set and one of those micro plushes. So now I have both Eris and Atheon hanging by my computer at work. It's like, yay! So shout
That's
out
like
to
the
my
best
work.
Secret Santa ever.
I know. Like, they actually got me something that's amazing instead of like bath bombs or hot cocoa or things that I generally
my
get
4-year-old
other
is a
people for
very
these.
big fan of bath bombs, by the way.
What's a bath bomb? Because for me, a bath bomb is something very specific, and you don't buy it.
And you generally make it yourself, but
Yeah, like a DIY type thing.
Right. I will tell you, the bath bombs that I use, Justin, probably smell a lot better.
Mine smell like sandalwood.
Anyways. I'm gonna repeat Green's initial shout out there about the Twitter. I really appreciate all you guys who do follow us over on Twitter. You guys see probably more of the sense of humor that we have behind the scenes if you follow us on Twitter, especially our personal Twitters. Mostly it's us giving Justin a really hard time throughout the day.
Which,
I mean,
it's unreal because I came with that. You don't need to give that to me.
Yeah, I know. But it's also, I mean, like that's where a lot of like our kind of inside jokes, we kind of get them formed on Twitter actually more and more. So yeah, for everyone who's on Twitter, if you don't have a Twitter account, that's, I mean, I'm not.
Yeah,
that's
don't
not
make
anything.
one on our account.
Yeah, don't make one on our account. There's a lot worse people on Twitter than there are good at times. So it can be a pretty it's like Reddit. It can be a pretty dangerous place if you don't know how to work the
pretty well policed Twitter though.
Yeah, just okay. Anyways, but if you are on Twitter, definitely give us a follow, and we all pretty good at interacting with people on Twitter. Just the same as Discord. It's like for me, it's pretty much the second best place to get a hold of me, honestly.
Message us, tweet at us. Tweeting at us is a little, tweeting at us, I don't know. There's some that I've gotten lately where they'll tweet like the giant things, and I'm like, just message me in Discord, because then I can read it all in one go, and I don't have to go through a tweet thread. But
yeah,
and like short messages or something.
Right, and the new text limit in Twitter has definitely made explaining some things easier for us, or at least for me. But yeah. Chat
Storm. Oh, you.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for me. A big shout out for that, and thank you. I think our team Twitter is just at Focus Fire Chat, which you'll hear here in the post notes, and that is where a lot of our updates are. The other thing, Green, you made a comment about we haven't said it in a while, but I just remembered we do have a Google Calendar that has our entire schedule loaded up on it. And with the Google Calendar, if you sync it with your own personal calendar, it will just automatically update. And I keep that thing pretty up to date. I mean, I pretty much, I'm always looking at it, to be honest, since it's on my phone. But I also make sure to at least touch base with everyone on the podcast team and within the mod team at least once a month to just make sure that our monthly schedule is updated. So, sans last minute emergency changes, that is going to be a very up to date picture of what to expect from us for that next month. So
it may not have the topics in it because we do that week by week or month.
Yeah,
month.
no, I don't put
date of the episodes.
Right. I do not put topics simply because to be frank, I don't have time to update it to that granular of a level. But we do have a directory of episodes that is linked on our website. That I also
links you to all the mind maps.
It has all the mind maps. It has all the guest information and all the episodes directly linked. And I do keep that up to date as much as I possibly can as well. But, yep. Oh, yes, pins. Pins reminded me. Game nights. We will be getting those up to date on that map or that calendar as well. I'm working with our community managers, Pins and Damo, to figure out that exact schedule. I believe right now Thursday nights. I think Pens is online most of the time.
Yes.
But
to
I
run
need
strikes and other things with people if they need it.
Yes, and I will be getting that as soon as I get a chance. I'm going to solidify that, and Thursday and Sunday nights, Pins is telling me. So I will be putting that up on the the calendar as well. And then Storm is requesting that I make a shout out to Argos the dog.
I will also say that Pins and I are talking about an event that we might be doing within the next couple of weeks that I mentioned in Discord chat that is kind of a community event for the whole FFC family. So if you are in our Discord, make sure that you are kind of keeping tuned. If you are not in our Discord, please hit me up on a message on Twitter and I can get you more information on that. I think we're going to be doing some racing in the next couple of weeks and do a tournament or something like that for the community. So, yeah.
If you could just remind me to at me all the time so I can keep up somehow.
Yes. Yes, all the ats.
All the ats.
It's an at, right?
Ats, yes.
All right, so let's run through an outro, and then, as usual, we'll stay for a little bit of an after show. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new FocusFireChat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any questions or comments for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing podcast partners within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.